Imagine a world encased in stone and fear, where walls were more than just defenses. They were prisons holding life and despair captive. Medieval sieges were like grim chess matches played with lives. Food stores dwindled, hope of relief was absent, and time itself became an executioner. Illness thrived in the damp shadows, while betrayal festered like an open wound. Whole cities became waiting tombs. Picture the scent of burning flesh mingling with the sharp taste of terror, where cunning and cruelty blurred the lines between sanity and madness. These are stories of extraordinary sieges where surviving demanded something beyond bravery. It needed a touch of madness. Join me on a journey back to an age where the sound of metal echoed in castle courtyards, and the sword was far more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of authority, honor, and life itself, woven into the very heart of the medieval world. The sword held a mystical aura, standing as a silent witness to tales of courage and the eternal struggle between life and death. Knights carried these blades not merely as weapons, but as emblems of their rank. Each sword was a sign of legacy, often passed down through families, carrying with it the silent stories of battles won and lost. The arming sword, with its two sharp edges, became the emblem of a knight's duty. Versatile and graceful, it was ready for both brutal combat and formal duels. Its counterpart, the longsword, with its greater reach and flexibility, required both skill and strength and was particularly effective at finding gaps in armor. Then there was the falchion, less refined but deadly, created for those without noble birth but not without fighting spirit. Every sword spoke volumes about its owner's place in society, reflecting the social and political currents of the time. Whether beautifully crafted by a master smith or quickly made for a mercenary, each blade had its own history etched into its steel. The medieval fascination with swords was deeply connected to a series of significant, often spiritual rituals. Naming a sword was like giving life to the metal, a moment when plain steel was given purpose and spirit. These newly named swords were often blessed by the clergy, given a sacred purpose to act as divine allies in times of danger. In a time full of superstition, such ceremonies blended military duty with spiritual devotion, turning swords from simple tools into charms of fate and fortune. They were thought to possess the power to tip the balance of battle, and the act of making swords itself was seen as akin to alchemy. Blacksmiths, the unsung heroes of the battlefield, refined their skills into an art form, repeatedly folding metal to create blades capable of enduring the harsh realities of combat. Smiths were highly respected, part wizards who knew the secrets of fire and metal, transforming raw elements into legendary weapons. The sweat and sparks of their forges laid the groundwork for knightly reputations, confirming their status with every hammer blow that resonated through the ages. However, a sword was only as powerful as the hand that held it. Young knights began their training as pages in the challenging arts of swordsmanship, their path marked by the clash of practiced blades and the demanding exchange of skills and effort. Training included not only physical strength and stamina, but also strategy and intelligence. This preparation sharpened their instincts and strengthened their resolve, allowing them to face the chaos of battle with the agility and grace required by their solemn vows. Knighting ceremonies also placed the sword at the center. In these solemn rituals, candidates knelt before lords and rulers to receive their sword, making promises of loyalty and courage. This moment marked both their rise to power and a firm commitment to uphold the ideals of chivalry. The sword served as a constant reminder of their duty to the kingdom. Here, swords changed from simple pieces of metal to embodiments of knightly ideals, demonstrating the power of symbolism to inspire and motivate. Even in the mystical realm of legends, swords captured imaginations, as stories of enchanted blades showed the way through tales of magic and destiny. Stories like that of Excalibur gave swords supernatural meaning, portraying them as objects with a life beyond just metal, an idea that resonated with the dreams and fears of medieval society. These mythical narratives, reflecting the hopes and hardships of ordinary people and nobles alike, showed how swords blurred the line between reality and legend, becoming channels for chivalrous ambitions and eternal struggle. Swords, paradoxically valued as tools of peace as much as instruments of war, highlighted the complexity of medieval life. They maintained order in chaos, their very presence acting as a deterrent to unrest. Yet in the wrong hands, they quickly became tools of oppression. This contradiction illustrated the fragile balance within the soul of medieval society, where blades could both uphold justice and bring down tyranny. Such contradictions are not unfamiliar today, as these ancient ideas persist in the ceremonial display of modern weapons, a gentle reminder of history's cyclical nature. The sword story goes beyond its sharp edge. It has carved a place in history as a symbol of the human condition, revealing the stories of perseverance and courage that define us. Even as the sound of sword fights fades into digital echoes, the allure remains, forever casting its shadow over modern imaginations. The cool feel of steel still echoes through time, telling tales of a world long gone, yet strangely present in every cut, clash, and touch of metal. Axes, timeless tools born of necessity, became the preferred weapon for the common person amidst the chaos of the medieval era. Imagine the battlefield, a cacophony of colliding metal, desperate cries, and the sickening thud of axes hitting flesh. While swords were a luxury reserved for the nobility, axes were easily available, turning the everyday laborer's tool into a deadly equalizer against armored knights. These weapons did more than just cut. They broke shields, split mail armor, and reduced the social hierarchy of the battlefield to an arena of pure survival. Originally made for everyday work, axes evolved to meet military needs, growing from simple tools into fearsome designs like the bearded axe, designed not only to slash but also to hook and disarm opponents. As armor became thicker and more cumbersome, axes met this challenge directly. Designs became more specialized, with blades sharpened to pierce and chop through plated defenses. The Danish axe embodied this change. Its longer handle and wider blade provided unmatched leverage and force, making it the weapon of choice for huscarls during significant battles like Hastings. In this story of brute force, maces enter as powerful symbols. Stemming from ancient stone clubs, medieval maces went beyond their primitive origins. Their metal heads were designed to crush rather than cut. The chilling sound of a mace-shattering bone was a sound that turned stomachs and crushed morale. While armor deflected arrows and sword strikes, maces struck with brutal indifference to such defenses, turning intricate armor into little more than paper against sufficient force. The mace was no longer just a peasant's weapon. It became a favored tool of both knights and soldiers, bridging the social divide one bone-crushing blow at a time. Flanged and spiked maces took this deadliness a step further. Their design concentrated force onto smaller points, crushing both armor and the flesh beneath. This weapon made elaborate defenses almost useless. The mace's widespread yet devastating nature made it a standard on battlefields, a versatile symbol of power and justice that went beyond its role in war to become a ceremonial emblem of authority in courts of law. The warhammer stands as a high art of destruction, a combination of power and precision. A weapon favored by discerning warriors, the warhammer delivered its force with pinpoint accuracy. Its spiked or beak-like head pierced through the toughest armor at vulnerable points. Such precision demanded tactical expertise, marking it as the choice of both experienced generals and battle-hardened foot soldiers. Here was a weapon that transformed skill and power into an unparalleled art form on the medieval battlefield. Medieval warfare was as much a psychological as a physical conflict. The presence of maces and warhammers among soldiers represented a source of terror. Facing such brutal instruments, knights clad in ornate armor confronted the unsettling truth that all their protection might offer no salvation. The psychological fear induced by blunt weapons was evident, their threat demoralizing entire armies long before the fatal strike. Beyond their sheer practicality, these weapons held cultural significance, becoming icons woven into the fabric of medieval life and law. The mighty hammer of the Norse god Thor, Mjolnir, resonates through time as a symbol of strength and courage. Similarly, maces and axes in tapestries and manuscripts depicted acts of heroism and conquest. These weapons were enshrined in martial folklore, their legends fueling tales of valor on both the battlefield and at court. Training to wield these implements required dedication to mastering the principles of momentum and leverage. Warriors honed control as much as raw power, an education that went beyond brute force and opened entirely new chapters of tactical warfare. Historical battles record incredible victories where these tools decisively turn the tide, such as during the Hussite Wars, where peasant forces overcame armored knights using sheer strategy and adaptability. The line between nobility and peasantry was often blurred in the heat of battle. An ornate mace wielded by a noble knight could very well meet its match in a peasant's simpler handmade axe. The battlefield became a rare space where social hierarchies temporarily dissolved, and ideals of valor and outcome depended on courage and tenacity rather than noble lineage. The legacy of these medieval blunt weapons speaks to a brutal yet profoundly democratic form of combat. They remind us of an era where survival dictated ingenuity and practicality often triumphed over elegance. Examining these artifacts, we uncover a society shaped by conflict and pragmatism. They compel us to reflect on human innovation, capturing the essence of medieval life, a world where life and death danced to the rhythm of axe, mace, and hammer, revealing an enduring saga of resilience and adaptability. In an age dominated by steel and chivalrous splendor, the longbow emerged as an unassuming disruptor. Crafted from yew or elm, it was a simple tool that granted unparalleled power to English peasants, individuals far removed from the noble legacy of knights. Standing over 6 feet tall, this formidable weapon brought lethal precision to the battlefield, as its arrows could pierce armor from distances exceeding 200 yards. Victory, as it turned out, was no longer simply an inheritance. It was a honed and deadly skill, leveling the field between highborn and commoner alike. Remarkably, the longbow transformed peasants into formidable soldiers, much to the dismay of those who had long dominated the art of war through bloodlines. This revolution in combat was nowhere more evident than at Agincourt in 1415. Facing overwhelming odds, King Henry I's troops relied on a phalanx of archers to outmaneuver and outlast a superior French force. The French knights were trapped by their cumbersome armor and the treacherous mud of the battlefield, where the English longbowmen unleashed volleys in a relentless rhythm, toppling opponents from their horses and securing a historic victory. Mastering the longbow, however, was no small feat. English laws mandated training, reflecting the bow's central role in national defense. Starting as young as 7, boys were introduced to smaller versions of the weapon, developing strength and skill. Archery became part of the cultural fabric, immortalized in folklore and celebrated in competitions. The power of the bow demanded not just physical prowess, but an intuitive understanding of wind and distance. For these archers, archery was more than military duty. It was an identity woven into their very being. But a bow was only as mighty as its arrows. The Fletcher's relentless pursuit of precision mirrored the life and death importance of every shaft. Crafted with barbed tips for armor and broadheads for unprotected foes, arrows embodied versatility. Their creation was an art form, ensuring that on the eve of battle, each archer wielded weapons meticulously prepared to fly true and strike decisively. These arrows emerged as ominous symbols, silent yet powerful messengers across muddy fields and open skies. In parallel, humanity's psyche was forever marked by the unseen terror of archery. The faceless, distant threat wielded unparalleled power, echoing across medieval battlefields as an ever-present fear. Arrows rained down, a whirlwind of wood that shattered armor, and more profoundly, the nerves of those who found themselves exposed. As reflections of this shadowy dread, longbowmen embodied a war strategy that reshaped the martial mindset from valiant hand-to-hand combat to the distant lethality of an impersonal onslaught. Yet even as its influence waned in the face of advancing technology, the longbow endured as a cultural touchstone, leaving an indelible mark on societal structures and medieval sensibilities. It symbolized an egalitarian shift. Power lay in weathered hands and muscle memory, a peasant's defiance against knightly privilege. The bow's legacy transcended its battlefield utility, sparking social change in its wake. Archery contests filled public squares, accompanied by accolades for the victors. Former serfs now champions of their communities. Its simplicity masked an intricate promise. Valor resided not in noble birth, but in the disciplined perseverance of humble hands. As crossbows and early firearms began to overshadow its reputation, the longbow lingered as a symbol of resilience and cultural significance. The nuanced craftsmanship of bows varied across social tiers, with nobles commissioning opulent, customized bows. Their quality a reflection of prestige, not necessity. This stratification highlighted the bow's dual role within the medieval tapestry, serving both a pragmatic military purpose and a ceremonial, competitive one. While the English longbow became synonymous with the tumultuous symphony of medieval warfare, diverse cultures worldwide left their own imprint on the development of archery. The Mongols and other Asian civilizations favored the composite bow, an engineering marvel that united wood, horn, and sinew into a flexible yet powerful weapon suitable for mounted warriors. Across oceans, indigenous North American tribes crafted their bows using local ingenuity and resources, blending functionality with cultural virtue, a testament to the universal call and response of human inventiveness. It is this enduring fascination that defies the bow's military obsolescence, the pull of the bowstring echoing with humanity's oldest challenges: sustenance, survival, and navigation. The bow inspired awe, not solely for its effectiveness, but for its primal simplicity. Old worlds were resurrected in its arc. History intertwines, then and alongside the twang of the bowstring, beckoning echoes to both birth and burial, where arrows mark not only targets, but the evolution of the human condition into mechanisms of tool and glory. Archery, more than a remnant, more a prolonged consideration, a narrative embedded in the sinewy connection between a person and an ancient endeavor, shaping destinies yet unseen but forever whispered by history's evocative string. In the theater of medieval warfare, the crossbow emerged as a game-changer, its design reshaping the dynamics of battle. Unlike traditional bows that demanded years of training and skill, this mechanical marvel was accessible and devastating. Its appeal lay in its ability to hold tension on the string, allowing the shooter to aim calmly without exerting strength, a formidable tool that pierced even the strongest armor, unsettling the aristocracy. Here was a weapon that democratized war, stripping away the valor and skill associated with archery and instilling fear in the hearts of knights. The Church, recognizing its potential to disrupt social hierarchies, banned its use against Christians at the Second Lateran Council in 1139. Yet the crossbow continued to deliver a shockwave through military tactics, shaking the very foundations of the medieval battlefield. With minimal training, even a peasant could threaten the life of a noble knight, leveling the playing field of combat and challenging the entrenched martial hierarchy. The crossbow's mechanics told their own tale of dread. Smaller than a longbow, yet capable of storing more energy, its release was heralded by a distinctive twang, followed by a bolt effortlessly cutting through chainmail. This design afforded soldiers the luxury of precision, transforming the battlefield into a place of unseen fear, where death could strike from any direction. A charged crossbow struck a balance between power and patience, allowing smaller forces to resist larger armies with precision and lethality. Its role in siege warfare solidified its importance. With its ability to launch bolts over fortifications, it became indispensable in both attack and defense. As defenders, crossbowmen held their ground, slowing down attackers with unmatched attrition. While on the offensive, they disrupted and disoriented with relentless precision. But the crossbow was not just a weapon, it was a symbol of evolving warfare. Despite being nicknamed the weapon of cowards, crossbowmen honed their skills with discipline and patience, understanding the value of timing in combat. They occupied an ambiguous space within medieval society, a point of contention in religious and philosophical texts, yet respected for their prowess and contributions on the battlefield. Chronicles from figures like Froissart detail how these troops strategically used their position, turning skirmishes into tactical gems. Beyond the front lines, the crossbow assumed roles in hunting and urban policing. It simplified hunting, offering those unable to wield the longbow a chance to participate in a vital aspect of medieval life. Yet within this democratization, hunting rights continued to reflect status and privilege. In urban settings, crossbows were wielded by city constables, adding a layer of deterrence to the maintenance of order, quelling unrest with quiet authority. Culturally, the crossbow imprinted itself upon the medieval psyche, weaving through narratives of rebellion, resistance, and strength. Legends like Robin Hood etched its image into collective memory, where outlaws wielded them in defiance of unjust authority. In art and iconography, the crossbow featured prominently, capturing the paradox of admiration and ban, appearing in cathedral carvings as both a warning and a testament to its significance. As the centuries turned, the crossbow evolved, adapting through innovations in materials such as steel, which enhanced draw strength and endurance. Multi-shot crossbows and repeating mechanisms emerged, offering glimpses into the relentless spirit of medieval ingenuity driven by necessity. Yet amidst the debates between crossbows and longbows, each weapon underscored a broader narrative of technology versus skill. While the longbow demanded craftsmanship and swift deployment in open battle, the crossbow provided potent precision suited to the confined scenarios of siege warfare. These distinctions played out in strategic dialogues across Europe, reflecting both military pragmatism and shifting societal attitudes towards warfare, power, and class. The twilight of the crossbow arrived with the rise of gunpowder, a new era that gradually overshadowed its silent deadliness with the roar of cannons and musket fire. Even as the crossbow's dominant days waned, its legacy lingered, subtly influencing firearm development and tactics for generations. Reflecting on the crossbow's legacy is to understand its profound impact on military traditions and social paradigms. It represented innovation and the friction between medieval ideals and the encroachments of change, where questions of ease, lethality, and power echoed through time. The crossbow stands as an emblem not of cowardice, but of transformation, challenging notions of valor and consequence, offering lessons about resilience and adaptability that resonate in any era. As the murmurs of its bolts reverberate through history, the crossbow tells a timeless story, a testament to a brave new world where innovation bridged divides, altering the course of human history. In the medieval world, amidst the sounds of clashing steel and cries of battle, the spear stood as the steadfast choice for the common soldier. Accessible, affordable, and brutally effective, it required no noble title to wield. A basic wooden shaft capped with a sharp metal point, this unassuming weapon leveled the playing field, embodying the essence of egalitarianism on the battlefield. While knights paraded with their intricate swords, the spear thrived in simplicity, proving its worth time and again. A soldier, or even a mere peasant, needed only the courage to thrust it forward, a straightforward motion yet powerful enough to counter the might of charging cavalry. From its basic form, countless variations arose, each adapting to the battlefield's needs. From sturdy spears held shoulder to shoulder by disciplined units, creating an unwavering phalanx, to pikes stretching 20 feet into the air, they formed an impenetrable wall. Soldiers bracing for the terrifying, thundering hooves of mounted knights understood that their humble spears were more than tools. They were lifelines. Echoes of disciplined training replaced panic with focus, helping soldiers hold formation despite men's heightened senses and racing hearts. Together, they reshaped potential chaos into order, formations capable of withstanding assaults from nobility and standing firm against the tide of countless enemies. As warfare evolved, so did the spear, seamlessly transforming into the formidable pike. This extended variant required a disciplined dance of movement and precise coordination, allowing infantrymen to hold off daring cavalry charges with a sea of sharpened points. The Swiss masters of the pike square demonstrated its unmatched capacity to alter battles, their formations a deadly embrace of unity and strategy. Meanwhile, as the pike grew longer, its use demanded soldiers respect its power and adaptability amidst chaos, fully aware that a single shift or gap could spell disaster. These pike formations prioritized skill over brute force, proving that success hinged on the close-knit coordination of steely-hearted troops over sheer numbers alone. Amidst these straightforward weapons, the halberd brought versatility and ingenuity to the chaos of medieval conflict. A hybrid of axe, spear, and hook, its multifunctionality enabled foot soldiers to face various threats with resourcefulness. Whether slicing through armor, piercing an enemy in mid-charge, or dragging a knight from his steed, the halberd was a marvel of medieval creativity. While its sophistication required more training, the investment proved worthwhile as it granted armies greater adaptability, giving rise to a new breed of soldiers, the halberdiers. Formations of the era possessed power not just through their weapons, but through the unity they forged. Medieval commanders understood the strength lying in the hands of men ordered and aligned, their synchronized movements a manifestation of pure willpower and discipline. The ranked and filed formations, with steadfast lines of bristling poles and pikes, cast foreboding shadows upon the ground. This spectacle left armies trembling, as skirmishes sought to break them with javelin slings or timely ambushes, a testament to the psychological chess game waged beyond the weapon's impact alone. Beyond the physicality of warfare, the era's polearms symbolized profound social dynamics. They represented not just instruments of death, but also societal shifts in power and class distinction. Accessible to soldiers of humble origins, these weapons allowed lower classes to face the upper echelons in decisive engagements, challenging the entrenched norms of medieval hierarchy. Warfare's demand for disciplined lines of steadfast infantry fostered respect for the common man, gradually tilting towards more organized states and standing armies. Yet standing against horrifying foes demanded more than brute force. It required unwavering resolve. Veterans understood that all weapons waged psychological battles, and their formations often embodied this dread. Rows of spears advancing as one, accompanied by the methodical clatter of armor, struck fear into adversaries long before a single blow was struck. Despite their tactical prowess, spear formations were not invulnerable. Tactical adeptness was needed to counter enemy flanks or adjust to diverse terrain that hindered their organization. Armies learned to mix halberdiers with pikemen to counter such weaknesses. The battlefield became a dynamic stage. Commanders perpetually refined and adapted their strategies to ever-shifting challenges. In the dance of warfare, landscapes influenced outcomes, and every strategic insight could trigger unexpected shifts. In this constantly evolving tactical landscape, notable battles echoed the pivotal role of spears, pikes, and halberds. The Battle of Bannockburn saw Scottish forces succeed against cavalry through disciplined schiltrons, while Flemish foot soldiers triumphed at the Battle of Courtrai. Both conflicts demonstrated the profound impact of collective unity wielded by a determined infantry, reshaping the politics and power structures of the time. Even as gunpowder weapons signaled the decline of polearms on battlefields, their legacy threaded through ceremonial roles, cultural iconography, and national pride, bridging past conflicts to the present. They remain timeless relics in the chronicles of war and resilience, connecting us to echoes of steadfast courage and shared confrontation that shaped history. In the shadowed annals of medieval warfare, siege warfare stands as a grim testament to human ingenuity and desperation. Not confined to open fields, battles often raged against the daunting stone walls of fortified cities. Siege towers emerged as monstrous wooden giants, personifying military engineering at its peak. These towers, colossal in stature, allowed armies to scale the loftiest walls, acting like bridges that carried warriors from the earth to the heart of besieged cities. As they moved forward, towering above their targets, they provided protection against a deadly rain of arrows and projectiles launched by defenders. The mere silhouette of a siege tower on the horizon was enough to sow dread in the hearts of those within the city, foretelling their doom. Crafted from timber and sometimes covered in hides, soaked in water to ward off flames, siege towers housed multiple levels of archers and soldiers ready to storm the battlements. Witnessing a siege tower inch forward was akin to watching a tremendous beast awaken from slumber. The relentless advance, accompanied by the clang of shouted commands and the creak of wooden wheels, was a nightmare made manifest, illustrating the harrowing stakes of medieval warfare. The sheer intimidation and engineering prowess visible in siege towers found counters in the clever tactics of defenders who built barriers and devised traps, reaching for any advantage to stave off invasion. In contrast, the battering ram followed siege towers with a simpler yet equally devastating intent. Born from ancient times, the battering ram was a thick beam of timber, often tipped with iron, that relentlessly hammered gates and walls. These rams, suspended under protective coverings, resembled giant serpents coiled and ready to strike, their rhythmic pounding echoing ominously across the battlefield. For those defending, the repetitive sound and vibrations created a chilling backdrop to the drama of a siege. Beyond its raw, destructive power, wielding a battering ram required coordination and courage. Rams were the spearhead of an assault, drawing the focus of boiling oil, arrows, and stones launched by desperate defenders. Operating a ram was dangerous and grueling, a testament to the fortitude and resolve of the soldiers manning these formidable weapons. These warriors, often driven by promises of glory and loot, worked tirelessly, shielded by mobile structures known as tortoises that protected them from the skyward onslaught. It was an exhausting war of attrition where the singular aim was clear: breach the fortress regardless of sacrifice. Beneath the battlefield, a quiet struggle unfolded. Undermining or sapping was a crafty art form involving miners tunneling beneath defensive walls to destabilize their foundations. These specialized troops, known as sappers, operated with stealth and precision, burrowing through earth and rock. Their work was concealed in dimly lit passageways far below the surface. Often walls crumbled not through overt assault, but because of these hidden voids. The subterranean battleground held its own perils, as sappers faced not only the fear of discovery, but the counter-mining efforts of defenders. Clashes under the earth were battles of sound and silence, culminating in fiery detonations within tunnels that brought down walls in a dramatic collapse. Alongside these, fire emerged as a uniquely devastating tool in siege warfare, both sword and shield. When walls proved impervious to force alone, besiegers turned to flames, flaming arrows, and pitch-soaked bundles to sow fear and chaos. Smoke rising into the sky signaled destruction below, a grim marker of the besieged's helplessness against the slow grind of encroaching attackers. Defenders too employed fire, using burning oil or molten metal to repel those gathered at the gates. More than mere strategy, fire served as a psychological weapon, with the horrifying spectacle of comrades consumed in flames sufficient to shake the resolve of sturdy fighters. In these sieges, flame entwined with human struggle, turning even the strongest wills to ashes. Sometimes siege towers and battering rams proved inadequate, and in those instances, scaling ladders came into play. Simple in design but brutal in execution, they were symbols of desperate resolve. Soldiers scrambled up these ladders, exposed to deadly fire, risking all to gain a foothold atop ramparts or perish trying. Each ascent was a perilous gamble, often resulting in mass casualties. Nonetheless, those who succeeded in breaching the defenses found themselves poised for glory or stopped by defenders equally determined to repel intrusion. The relentless waves of humanity climbing up frail ladders encapsulated medieval warfare's nerve and tenacity, where courage and absurdity walked hand in hand. Time itself took on an ominous role in siege warfare, an unyielding monarch placing demands upon besiegers and defenders alike. For attackers, each day lengthened logistical struggles, strained supply lines, and eroded morale. Camped around a city under inhospitable conditions, soldiers faced disease, dwindling supplies, and sudden defensive sorties. Defenders sheltered behind walls lived under the shadow of starvation, dreading each volley and cunning stratagem of the besiegers, their hope wearing thin. In this grim ballet, time dictated outcomes. Resources and endurance weighed heavily on the fickle balance of war, favoring patience and leading to desperation. Class distinctions also played a role in these endeavors. Nobles faced siege with privileges their common counterparts lacked, better quarters and access to resources. However, they also bore burdens, expected to lead, negotiate, and even offer themselves as ransom. Common soldiers and citizens endured the brutality of sieges in a shared struggle for survival, often falling victim to the cruel calculations of war. Whether behind crumbling walls or attacking them, the gap between noble and commoner was starkly drawn, yet blurred by warfare's egalitarian destructiveness. Siege warfare scarred not only landscapes and cities, but etched itself into culture and history. Tales and legends grew, stories of heroic defenses and cunning offenses, immortalized in manuscripts and tapestries. Castles and cities adapted, evolving from lessons learned in these sieges. Even language bore influences, stories of resistance and surrender resonating with future generations as reminders of endurance and folly. In the chaos of medieval sieges, destruction seamlessly intertwined with creation, leaving an indelible mark upon the world. If this glimpse into the siegecraft of the Middle Ages piqued your interest or unsettled your spirit, consider leaving a like. For more shadowed whispers from history's past, subscribe to Medieval Grime. We serve tales aged and unfiltered. Thanks for joining us. Stay grimy And until next time, may the fireside unveil its secrets anew. In the shadowy depths of medieval warfare, there emerged a grand invention that was both a marvel of engineering and a harbinger of doom: the trebuchet. Crafted meticulously from sturdy timbers and interwoven with thick ropes, this towering siege engine embodied the era's relentless quest for power and precision. Standing amidst the chaos of battlefields like a looming titan, the trebuchet relied on simple principles of counterweight and leverage. Unlike its cousin, the catapult, which relied on tension, the trebuchet used gravity to propel its payloads with terrifying accuracy. Creating one of these mechanical giants required not just carpentry skills and a keen understanding of physics, but also the collective effort of skilled artisans and laborers. Day by day, piece by piece, they assembled the siege machine, gathering immense quantities of wood and metal. Buildings would shake in their foundations, while men would gather in awe of this colossal creation, anticipating the destruction it promised. Once ready, the trebuchet became a masterful expression of human ingenuity, its imposing arms swaying with a threatening grace as the operators fine-tuned every angle. The reputation of trebuchets extended beyond their construction. It lay in the fearsome payloads they hurled. Stone was the preferred weapon, massive, unyielding, and capable of crushing defenses with thunderous impacts. But when mere stones failed to breach enemy walls, a darker arsenal was deployed. At times, rotting carcasses or even plague-ridden corpses became weapons of choice, flung over walls to instill not just physical, but psychological torment among the besieged. This form of biological warfare turned the trebuchet into a symbol of medieval desperation and ingenuity, as attackers sought victory through any means necessary. Building such a machine demanded unparalleled expertise and a collective sense of purpose. Craftsmen labored tirelessly, felling vast forests and bending metals to their will. Blacksmiths forged essential components while engineers fine-tuned every detail, ensuring the machine operated with deadly precision. This collaborative effort weaves a tale of unity and skill, with each person knowing their work could alter the fate of entire battles. From blueprint to battlefield, the trebuchet was a formidable force, its preparation a grand spectacle in its own right. Though the trebuchet reached its peak in medieval times, its roots took hold in ancient Greece. Here the Greeks laid the theoretical groundwork with simple machines, from which the trebuchet evolved. This shared knowledge spans centuries, connecting ancient inventors to medieval engineers who transformed basic principles into masterpieces of war. The shift from friction-powered catapults to counterweight-driven trebuchets marked a revolution in siege warfare. One notable moment in history that showcased the trebuchet's might was during the 1304 siege of Stirling Castle under King Edward I of England. Here the monstrous war wolf laid waste to walls and morale alike, compelling surrender through sheer intimidation. The trebuchet's massive stones reduced walls to rubble, their power felt by all who witnessed the chaos. This clash became a testament to the synergy of military strategy and engineering, highlighting how the trebuchet's presence on the battlefield commanded both respect and fear. Deploying trebuchets during sieges was no small feat. Coordination was crucial, as each launch had to align with ground attacks to maximize impact. Communication between engineers, soldiers, and commanders was a careful dance of signals and strategy, echoing through chaotic battlegrounds. This level of coordination demonstrated that warfare was not just brute force, but a choreographed interplay of human intellect and mechanical might. With time, defenders grew wise to trebuchets, adapting their strategies to counter these hulking machines. Castle architects thickened walls and crafted fortifications, capable of absorbing the massive impacts from trebuchet projectiles. Night raids and skilled archers posed additional threats to trebuchet operations, illustrating the tactical arms race these machines incited across the continent. The trebuchet's reach extended well beyond European borders, finding its place in Asian conflicts. Thriving on global warfare stages, they evolved with cultures, refining their designs to suit their needs. For instance, Mongol forces adapted them for mobility across empires, incorporating explosive, gunpowder-filled projectiles. The cross-cultural utilization of these machines revealed universal themes of human innovation and the shared quest for mechanical mastery. As advancements in gunpowder weaponry swept across Europe, the age of the trebuchet slowly faded. Cannons and firearms heralded new tactics, yet the trebuchet's legacy endures as a symbol of medieval mechanization and martial innovation. Its story, etched in history, tells of an era when ingenuity and raw power blended seamlessly. The trebuchet is more than an artifact of war. It is a reflection of human perseverance in the face of formidable challenges, an enduring emblem of a world where the arc of a flying stone could decide the destiny of empires. In the medieval world, fire was a weapon of profound and primal fear, a force that both consumed and captivated. Flames were not merely destructive elements. They were instruments of terror that medieval armies wielded with chilling intent. Imagine being in a besieged castle where the sky is blotted out by thick smoke, the air heavy with the crackling roar of encroaching flames. More than just a physical threat, fire cast a shadow over the human spirit, leaving both buildings and souls scarred and ravaged. Among the most feared fiery weapons was the infamous Greek fire, a Byzantine concoction shrouded in mystery. Akin to ancient napalm, this incendiary liquid could ignite fiercely upon contact, turning ships into burning hulks and cities into funeral pyres. The secret of its composition was fiercely guarded, creating an aura of invincibility around Byzantine forces and leaving many attempted imitators frustrated. Tales of Greek fire spread swiftly through Europe, each story adding to its legendary status and demonstrating how psychological warfare often matched physical devastation. The thought of this infernal substance striking terror into the hearts of enemies showcased the power of both its physical and intangible flames. Medieval archers contributed their own brand of chaos through the use of flaming arrows. By igniting their tips with pitch or other flammable substances, they transformed a simple bow into a harbinger of fiery doom. Hundreds of these arrows could rain down upon an enemy, setting camps and siege engines ablaze, forcing an army into disarray. The spectacle of these fiery streaks across the sky was both magnificent and terrifying, with flames consuming thatched roofs, causing horses to bolt in terror, and turning soldiers into combatants against the very elements themselves. Flaming arrows were not just tools of war, they were symbols of the chaos and unpredictability that defined medieval conflict. Defenders, too, had their fiery arsenal, employing boiling oil to great effect. In the heat of a siege, with attackers scaling castle walls, the defenders would pour this scalding liquid over the edge, adding layers of excruciating agony to the physical and psychological toll of battle. Sometimes replaced with boiling pitch or even heated sand, this medieval tactic left an indelible mark on its victims, survival often coming with an unshakable reminder of the fiery barriers that separated life from death. Boiling oil and its counterparts were more than simple defenses. They were visceral symbols of the unyielding resolve that marked those who stood their ground against insurmountable odds. Besieging armies sometimes resorted to hurling animal carcasses soaked in flammable liquids over fortress walls, a macabre twist on incendiary tactics. These flaming projectiles, often diseased or pestilent, served dual purposes: to ignite fires and to threaten the spread of illness. When these rotting bombs sailed over walls, they transformed environments into scenes of apocalyptic proportions, with carrion birds circling ominously, heralding the advent of a dreadful siege. This unholy marriage of fire and pestilence reflected how medieval warfare was not just about defeating enemies, but instilling hopelessness and fear by any means necessary. Smoke added an insidious layer to the chaos, veiling battlefields in confusion. Thick and acrid smoke obscured vision, disorienting troops who suddenly found themselves choking and scattered, unable to distinguish friend from foe amidst a cloud of gray uncertainty. Military tacticians used smoke deliberately, knowing that the disarray it sowed could unravel even the most disciplined formations. Existence within the murky haze added a new dimension of fear, where unseen threats lurked and a soldier's footing seemed as uncertain as his fate. Pitch and tar became unsung heroes of medieval warfare, humble substances with potent capacities for destruction. Whether igniting arrows or creating fiery traps, these sticky compounds left enduring impressions. Soldiers feared encountering terrains riddled with pitch, knowing that even innocent-looking ground could become a smoldering quagmire. Beyond their battlefield application, pitch and tar symbolized the intersection of ingenuity and elemental power, where the simplest substances shaped the raw brutality of warfare. Naval warfare embraced fire through the use of fire ships, vessels laden with combustibles and sent drifting into enemy fleets. Flames spread rapidly across these floating pyres, consuming sails and hulls with indiscriminate fury. The tactic was as clever as it was desperate, turning sea battles into scenes of blazing chaos where the waves themselves seemed to boil. Preparing a fire ship was an exercise in both meticulous strategy and audacious recklessness, binding the seas and flames in a deadly dance of destruction. Even the art of alchemy met warfare as medieval minds pursued the perfect incendiary formula. Experimentation led to concoctions that remained a light in water, daring nature itself. These mixtures were less about science and more about embracing the tenuous edges of alchemical law, a testament to human attempts to harness fire's terrible beauty. By walking this line, they conjured narratives of reckless genius, where the line between brilliance and calamity was often blurred. Fire's reach extended beyond the immediate burning impressions into the human psyche, as deeply as it burned through timber and stone. The sight of entire villages or battlefields engulfed left stories of terror that transcended generations, forging a folklore of flame and despair. The searing truth that fire revealed was that vulnerability was an illusion, transforming battles into spectacles of both triumph and devastation. That eternal dance with fire became a reminder of the balance between survival and the inescapable, unyielding forces that defined medieval existence. In a world where life and death tangoed closely, medieval armor was the unsung hero, embodying both art and protection. Our tale begins with chainmail, a marvel from the Celts that endured through the Roman era, finding its way onto the bodies of early medieval warriors. Imagine countless metal rings meticulously interwoven, creating a flexible, shimmering fabric, a barrier against slashing blades and a testament to the artisan's skill. The faint clink of metal, like distant rainfall, accompanied every movement of a warrior clad in chainmail, marking him as both soldier and symbol. An intricate tapestry of interconnected loops that bore witness to battles fought and survived. Yet its glorious defense had flaws. Arrows and spears, piercing with deadly precision, revealed the vulnerabilities of such a suit, pushing the relentless march toward improved designs. As the clangor of battle echoed through the ages, the 13th century witnessed the dawn of a transformative era in armor. The ascent of crossbows and longbows heralded the need for greater protection, urging armorers to interlace iron plates within the web of chainmail. Thus, transitional armor emerged, its layers multiplying like secrets whispered across time, a precursor to the full-plate armor that would define a century. Metallurgy, in its alchemical dance, unlocked new potentials. By the 14th century, armies shimmered with knights clad in full-plate armor, an evolution as much about craft as survival. Each piece, a custom-made echo of its wearer, bore crests and symbols that told tales of lineage and loyalty. They became walking fortresses, wrapped in metal skins that clanked and glistened under the flickering torchlight. Constructing such formidable suits was a craft rich in tradition and innovation. Breastplates gleamed with mirrored strength, greaves hugged calves like determined shadows, and gauntlets clicked with the promise of protection. These articulated masterpieces permitted a knight's fluidity on the battlefield, a veritable orchestra of metallic notes with every step. But with such might came burdens. The weight of history literally sat upon their shoulders, every move a calculated affair, reminding them that prestige was a double-edged sword. To don the armor was to embrace a status that belied its confining embrace. Amidst chivalrous imagery, the knight in shining armor rode not just into battles, but into the burgeoning folklore of the Middle Ages. These knights, armed with ideals as formidable as their gear, symbolized courage and courtesy beneath the elaborate panoply. Songs of valor and tales of courtly love spun their narrative, gilding reality with the sheen of myth. Yet behind the myth was a stark truth. Maintaining such armor, keeping it combat-ready amidst the grime and gore, demanded perseverance, an enduring testament to the dichotomy between legend and life. In stark contrast to the noble knight stood the common soldier. His silhouette was defined not by opulent plate, but by the simplicity of the gambeson, the humble quilted armor. Stiff yet yielding, it offered solace to those who could not afford the luxury of metal. Chainmail, too, remained a popular choice for many, a reliable companion long after full-plate armor adorned the elite ranks. For mercenaries and foot soldiers, these woven rings were their closest allies in a world tinted with the rough hues of conflict. The evolution of armor influenced and reshaped the dance of war. As suits grew heavier, battles became slow-motion ballets where strategy favored defense, where formations moved like deliberate, deadly tides. Heavily armored knights did not merely charge, but demanded new battlefield hierarchies, a negotiation between traditional foot soldiers and the tangible might of armored cavalry. This interplay sculpted an ever-shifting military landscape, where the tension between old and new was as palpable as the clash of swords. In parallel, the rise of crossbows and longbows echoed across the fields, challenging armorers to an arms race marked by reinforced plates and clever overlaps. Envision battles where arrows rained down like judgment, each flight a potential breach, driving innovations in defense. The arms race between piercing projectiles and impervious armor was relentless, a testament to medieval ingenuity. As the sun set on the medieval age, firearms like thunderous harbingers showcased armor's existential crisis. Gunpowder weapons with smoky sneers pierced through what once seemed indestructible, heralding a battlefield metamorphosis. Heavy armor gave way to lighter, agile forces, reflecting the practical and economic sensibilities of a new era. Tradition, however resolute, bowed before innovation as knights, symbols of archaic grandeur, hung up their suits. Tournaments, meanwhile, retained armor in a ceremonial vestige, celebrating skill and spectacle amidst pomp and pageantry. Tournament armor, often a spectacle itself, sparkled not only for combat, but as a mirror of social hierarchy and valor. In these arenas, knights jousted amidst cheers, their armor gleaming with pride as much as prowess. Even today, the legacy of medieval armor persists, enchanting our collective imagination through the silver screen and reenactments. The enduring image of the knight in armor resonates as a symbol of courage and chivalry, bridging the ancient with the modern. Modern body armor, echoing its medieval predecessors, stands testament to humanity's timeless quest to shield against harm while retaining the freedom to move forward, embracing both history and hope in its intricate weave. In the medieval world, warfare was not merely about battle. It was a reflection of the times and the people who lived them. Feudalism, power struggles, and fervent religious beliefs were mirrored on the battlefield, where knights charged under banners of duty, honor, and sometimes divine will. The sword carried the weight of chivalric ideals, while the blunt force of maces and axes spoke to the raw nature of hand-to-hand combat. Lords waged war for land and power, but also to assert dominance and protect their faith, shaping battles that echoed broader societal dynamics. For the common folk, drawn into conflict by noble ambitions, the experience of war was a grim testament to the harsh realities of medieval life. Peasants thrust into the fray saw firsthand the ruin of war, their labor consumed by the gears of feudal ambition. Their lives and the rustic tools they wielded alongside mighty siege engines were markers of societal stratification, illustrating the stark chasm between privilege and duty. Chronicles reveal how these battles reshaped everything from landscapes to social hierarchies, marking eras of strife and transformation. Amidst this turmoil, the contest between innovation and tradition ignited a dance of progress across the battlefield. While the silhouettes of knights in gleaming armor never faded entirely, the whispers of gunpowder began to pierce the age's stillness. Yet the embrace of such innovation was cautious, for medieval minds revered tradition as much as they feared the unknown. Longbows and crossbows, wielded with precise human skill, coexisted with these newer, more unpredictable technologies, revealing a world grappling with change. Faith also played its part, driving men to war in a parallel of reverence and dread. Crusades, embarked upon as divine missions, saw warriors marching under the blazing symbols of righteousness, convinced of their heavenly mandate. Yet amidst the clash, fear lingered, the fear of damnation, of divine displeasure manifesting in the chaos of battle. The supernatural was woven through medieval belief, where enchanted weapons and relics seemed to hold sway over mortal affairs, ensnaring the imagination with the promise of divine intervention. The ethos of chivalry added a layer of complex honor to the bloody tapestry. Knights followed codes extolling virtues of loyalty and bravery, drawing firm lines of courtesy even amidst violence. Tournaments mirrored these chivalrous ideals, arenas of ritual and skill that reinforced a knight's valor. Yet on the field, ideals often met the gritty demands of survival, where heroism played out against betrayal and brutality, a contest not of lofty ideals, but raw, innate valor. The true backbone of medieval armies lay in their common soldiers, conscripted from fields and workshops, wielding bows and spears alongside makeshift armaments. For these men, the battlefield was an equalizer. Social distinctions blurred in the crucible of combat, yet their stories, often overshadowed by those of nobility, speak of adaptability and resolve in ways that shaped campaigns and determined their outcomes. Women, though fewer in number, played crucial roles in these conflicts. Figures like Joan of Arc illuminated the value of female agency amidst male-dominated clashes. From espionage to resisting sieges, women asserted their presence, revealing a tapestry richer and more varied than recorded history often suggests. These instances highlighted unexpected flexibility within strict gender roles, as necessity redrew boundaries and revealed new paths for participation. The drawn-out sieges that characterized much of medieval warfare were relentless contests of endurance. Siegecraft demanded not only martial proficiency, but also the fortitude to withstand time's punishing tests. For those trapped behind walls, the specter of starvation and despair loomed large, while commanders managed morale and supply lines, each maneuver steeped in patience and strategy. These struggles, exhaustive and harrowing, captured a microcosm of medieval resilience within their stone confines. Reputation lent currency to warriors' exploits, echoing throughout courts in tales of valor or cunning. The power of a famed name could tip battles before they began, a testament to the potency of legend and lore. Within this dynamic, mercenaries carved a niche, detached from feudal ties and driven purely by coin. Their role underscored the pragmatic edges of war, where loyalty danced with opportunity in an intricate waltz of survival and ambition. Beyond the chaos of war lay the ruins it created, reshaping societies anew. Victories and defeats redrew boundaries, shifted political landscapes, and reshaped economies. Survivors grappled with loss, rebuilding amidst the uncertainties of shifting allegiances and the fragile peace that followed. The echoes of these battles merged into the fabric of history, offering a lens through which to view the ever-shifting dance of power, where the aftermath of war proved as challenging as the battle itself. These medieval echoes resonate in the halls of modern thought and military strategy, where ancient lessons find new life. From the chivalrous influence on codes of honor to the strategic logistics that underpinned armies, the medieval battlefield offers a timeless narrative. Knights and epic quests inhabit our cultural consciousness, stirring stories that blend heroism with human frailty, whispering the lessons of an era where war was a reflection of its age, a complex evocation of humanity's enduring struggle with power, faith, and survival.